Hey everyone. I hope everybody's doing good. I am just sharing. Tonight we're going to have Lisa and a crime scene technician on tonight who has shared or who has looked over a few cases, and she is going to come on and give some insight into some of the things that she has learned. Give us her perspective. I think this is amazing. I really thank her for coming. Lisa and them, they should be joining here soon. Give us her perspective. There we go. I am just sharing into. I'm going to start with Aaron's group, the most important right now, and then our private group. There we go. While we wait on them, where are my... Many of you know who has been sharing, following along on the page. We're trying to throw together a huge list of questionable cases coming out of Tennessee. So we've been working on that. We're also doing a slideshow that we're putting together, and we're asking for pictures. How's everybody doing tonight? We're asking for pictures with information, and you can add it if you are artistically inclined, or you can send a picture in with the information. We can get it added. Either way, we want to add it to a slideshow that we're doing. So that's kind of a little bit what we're doing as far as trying just to spread that awareness. So I am going to go ahead and share this into my page real quick. Everybody's just trying to hop on. I'm very excited for the families, and a lot of people out there are like, man, she's very excited. I am. They deserve this. They've been waiting for this for a long time, and I'm just very glad that somebody is here to speak on their behalf a little bit and give some insight. So yes, I am very excited, and I'm very happy. We are finding a way to group everybody together and let everybody know that it's just not one or two cases. It's a bunch of questionable cases coming out of Tennessee. So I'm very excited to have the opportunity to help them out in this way. Very much. I am. How is everybody doing tonight? I'm just waiting for Lisa to hop on. She should be any minute. I got that shared. So I'm just getting the sharing out of the way while I'm waiting on her. Oh, I think I hear her now. So yeah, I'm going to introduce them. Please, they are open to questions. But, I'm going to kind of be observing myself tonight. I'm going to just introduce them and kind of let them take it from there. Pay attention to the comments because they're open to questions. And I will make sure that I pop up the photo, if needed. And kind of just observe. I know about Erin's case, but I don't really know about any of the cases that she might have looked into. So I will just be observing like the rest of you guys. So I'm going to invite them on now. Just to give them a warm welcome. I'm happy that they're here. Hi, are you guys both on there?
I am. I don't know if, can you hear me?
Here, let me.
I can. I can.
Now tell me how you guys want it. Is that okay? Or did you guys like the other way? Whatever's comfortable.
Oh, you're not going to see my face anyway.
Yeah, I look like a hot mess. How about that? Is that good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Sarah should be coming in.
That's okay. And then so I think that setup will be good. I'm getting used to it. Welcome, Heather. It's nice to meet you.
Hello, how are you?
Good. I'm very excited that you're here. I'm happy to hear what you have to say. I'm sure everybody watching is too.
Yeah, it's been a lot of work, and we still have a lot of work to go, but we're gonna get this done.
So you are a crime scene technician, or what? How would you?
Investigator.
Oh, nice.
I graduated with a criminal justice degree in 2009, and I have a major in crime scene investigation.
Awesome. That is wonderful. I am just so happy that you're taking the time out to do this. How are you? No, you go ahead.
I follow a lot of that, a lot of different cases, and just kind of, it's just always been my passion, and I love to help people. And so whenever I first read on Aaron's case, I immediately read, it was like red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. And I was just like, this, wow. And so I reached out to Lisa, and then it just kind of went from there.
Where did you first see Aaron's story?
Believe it or not, I am following another case. It's the Jason Landry case. I don't know if you've heard anything about it. It's another one that's pretty red flag. And then I was added to another group, and Lisa's story actually happened to be in that group. So then I just started reading more and more and more on it. And then I reached out to Lisa, and I was like, I have some questions. This is what I do. And so then it went from there. So then I was able to, and I've done a lot of research and stuff like that.
Awesome. How are you doing, Knight, Lisa?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
It's a little cool. I'm fixing to put me a sweatshirt on.
I had to do the same thing right before I hopped on here. It's a little chilly tonight.
And it's been really nice having somebody like Heather that knows what they're looking at.
Yes.
Where you can ask questions, where a lot of the people have never even got to ask any questions of anybody. And it's been a blessing to me because she can explain it, exactly what it says, where it just may say, I may interpret it saying one thing, and that really wasn't what it was. So she's been a godsend. And I'm sure Sarah, if she comes in, she'd have some questions, because Heather has seen the crime scene photos of her mother's.
Yeah, and
I just figure she, a lot of these families in the 13th that's never had a chance to ask questions could ask general questions, and I just think it'd be a blessing to so many.
Yeah,
and it's awesome, Heather, just taking time to talk to us, to reach out. I felt like an angel had been dropped in my lap.
Oh, well, me and Lisa have gotten really, really, really close through this ordeal, and she's been there for me. I've had some stuff going on, and so it was kind of like God brought us together, or Aaron brought us together.
Yeah.
And then, so I've been able to look at some of the other cases, and I'm appalled, and I'm just like, wow. There's just so much wrong, and it starts in the very, very beginning. When the 911 call went out on these cases, that's where it starts.
Yeah. Heather, are you from Tennessee? Or if you don't want to say, you don't have to say, just yes, no, around.
No, I'm from New Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm a New Mexico / Texas.
Nice. My husband is from around Texas, growing up in their parts of Texas. Yeah. I've never really left Ohio, so I'm pretty
There's a lot of, believe it or not, Texas is a great big state.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of stuff that goes on in Texas that would blow your mind. And so when I originally started going to school, in the whole nine, I did a lot of my, we had to pick certain cases to do papers on in school. And man, Texas, I guess because it's just wide open country, there's some really, really bad stuff that goes on in Texas. But
Yeah.
I thought it was Texas, but no, sounds like it's Tennessee as well. So
See, I am from Ohio, so I know about Aaron's. I don't really know too much about Lisa Paul's. So, like I was telling everybody before you come on, I will just really be spectating, and really, really just listening and letting you and Lisa take the lead on this, because I know Lisa knows about the Lisa Paul's case.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I've looked at it briefly. And I mean, that one was started wrong completely. The crime scene in both Lisa's and Aaron's, the crime scene was never kept clean. We call it clean, where they just let random people, dogs would be a number one thing that you don't want tracking things in and out. There was people, they did not secure any of the witnesses, they did not secure anything. So, and even in Lisa's case, they didn't secure the scene at all when they showed up. They did not secure it. And EMS knows, and in both cases, EMS knows better than a lot of the things that they were doing. So I don't know if it's a matter of they don't care, or they are so understaffed, or whatnot. I'm not real sure why EMS is not doing the things that they should be doing in these cases, and that's where a lot of the issues start.
What was your first big red flag when you were looking at Aaron's case?
At Aaron's case,
What really was just
the first thing that I seen was looking at pictures of his in when he was in his coffin, and after he'd already been done up. And I looked at his wrist, and his wrist, there was a bite mark. I mean, it's a clear as day bite mark. And I'm like, why would, that to me indicates some sort of a struggle, of some sort. Anytime you have wounds to either the lower arm or the hands, that is your number one indicator that there was a struggle of some sort.
Well, when we spoke to the embalmer, that was at the time, that was a question he asked me, if there had been a fight. And, I couldn't answer him because at that time, I didn't know.
Right.
And see, and clearly, you have a trained eye where I do not. We found a lot of things that didn't make sense, but, like that, we never noticed that.
And that, like I'd explained to Lisa, if you had never seen it, in school, we've seen tons of crime scene photos, and photos that just, I've seen pretty much anything.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to know what you're looking for. And like even with Aaron's, whenever I seen his neck as well, and they told that he supposedly had committed suicide by hanging. The fact that there was zero bruising on his neck there's no way, absolutely no way possible he would have extensive bruising. when the and I mean anybody does, even if they survive a hanging. So when they die by hanging, if he was dead when he was hanging, the bruise would be a lot worse because the blood pools
Yeah.
there. Does
Mhm.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Because there,
Yes.
so the blood, so when they bring him down, that blood doesn't go anywhere, and it does not go down because just normal blood goes down.
Yeah.
You know, I had never thought of it. That makes a great deal of sense
Mhm.
to me.
Mhm.
You know, in the report, I found that it said he had faint, faint purplish marks, but
Right.
now, you know, the mortician nor his sister nor I could find them. But then again, we don't have trained eyes. But the thing that all along from the get go was no one ever actually seen Aaron hanging.
Right.
He was on the ground in a curled up fetal position. And, you know, there's no one, I mean, to say that he was hanging other than these druggies that were around and drunks. And the one mark that it did show to me, or I think it did, was under his Adam's apple, which could have been done standing behind him, pulling back on him, or that is what I would assume.
Yeah. Or, I've even thought about it as, well, like Lisa, you and I had discussed, that I think, this is my honest opinion, I think he was killed in the house, and I think he was drug out to this
Yeah.
barn type deal. And I think that because if you'll look at the crime scene photos, there is absolutely nowhere. Okay, if somebody is going to die by suicide, hanging, there's going to be a chair. There's going to be something that they would jump off of the chair, off of a rail, some type of something for them to jump off of. That was way too high for Aaron to just, either way, you can't hang yourself from the ground. Doesn't happen. So there was absolutely nothing there in the crime scene photos, and there was nothing that like might have been pushed out of the way by EMS or the police or somebody at that point. So my thought is that they hung Aaron after he was already dead. Or they went to try to put him up there as in, so when the cops got there, they could just go with their story of, he hung himself, we tried, blah, 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 blah. And that, and clearly the cops just went with that, however, if the right people had been called in, and some sort of, and you're showing the video, so you can see where the rope is coming down. There's nothing there, no anything that he could have stood on, anything like that. So that right there tells me that he did not hang himself.
Okay. Is it normal for the investigators to leave the rope that was, you know, it supposedly happened with?
No, and that would have been one of the things that should have been taken, all pieces of it. It should have been taken, and it should have been bagged. It should have been sealed. So that way it should have been taken into evidence. When you go, I would have considered, if I was coming as an officer or a detective, I would have come to the scene and I would have said, he has zero petechia in his eyes and he has no bruising on his neck. This is, this is calling out way too many questions. So then you say, okay, we're going to treat this as a possible, not a parent. That was one of the things that I have heard in his, that it was an apparent suicide. It was not an apparent suicide. This, I would have, until we went to autopsy, it would have been considered a suspicious death. It would have been listed suicide, or homicide. and then when you send somebody to autopsy and you have on there apparent suicide, so then that gives the person doing the autopsy, and in order to do an autopsy, you do not have to be a doctor. You do not have to be really, you can have, in my state and most other states, they want you to have 2 years of crime scene, some sort of criminal justice crime scene, something like that. So these people may not have ever gone out to a crime scene and may not have ever done an autopsy before. This could have been that doctor's first, second, third, fourth autopsy. We don't know. So when the law enforcement sends this to autopsy and it says apparent suicide, that's pretty much what they go with.
In Tennessee, that's exactly what they go with. The physician that signed off on Aaron's on his death certificate or his autopsy has impeccable credentials. I've never argued the credentials. My thing is the multiple choice program that they run. And, in Aaron's case, they ordered a full cranium autopsy. But in Tennessee, no matter what's ordered, they can get into it and a third of the way through and decide they're going to go along with what the officer says, and that's where it stops. We could not find any indications of where they had done anything to his head whatsoever. And the autopsy, there was his height. He's 6'6". They had 6'2". He weighed 245. They had 208. Aaron was the biggest he'd ever been in his life. And they talked about real bad severe emphysema. He was a smoker, but he had huge legs. He walked 8-10 miles every day. I don't think somebody with emphysema like that is able to walk like that. Mm-hmm. And something about an artery to his heart. And Aaron had always been an athlete, so, it was like the autopsy we were reading was that of somebody else's. It didn't even seem to be Aaron's.
As well, in the autopsy, we found, based on what his dad said, and he was with his dad, based on the amount of alcohol found in his system, it was double the legal limit. And yes, after death, the blood alcohol level will raise just a bit, not enough for it to be double the legal amount. But so his dad said that he had only drank about half of that bottle all day long. For somebody that weighs 245 pounds, if you drink that entire, we'll put it, weighs 245 pounds. That's probably roughly, in order to make him drunk, probably 2 or 3 shots an hour. That bottle was still half full
and it wasn't but a half a pint either.
And it was a half pint. So that raised my question of where did the alcohol come from in that short of amount of time, or did they make a mistake?
Yeah. See, that's one of the questions I had. There was things that I'd always heard were supposed to be on there, like stomach contents, the body temperature at the time, stuff like that. And that stuff wasn't there. And I'm thinking, this seems to be lacking, not only lacking, but it still doesn't seem like they run an autopsy on my son, because observing him on the table, observing him in his casket, he did not look like my son. And I asked his sister, is this Aaron? So, the autopsy left more questions than we got answers.
There also was not when they said they were going to do the intracranial testing on his brain, there really wasn't anything like that, which would have, there will be parts. Okay, so just to explain it, there will be parts of the brain when they are deprived of oxygen for a certain amount of time, which would be in hanging. There will be spots of the brain that are different, are discolored, and there was no indicators of that in the autopsy.
Yeah.
There was no indicators of petechia. I've said that. That's a telltale sign when you go to a scene and you're taking pictures and you're going through all that and stuff, and they say, oh, this person was hung, or they were choked, something to that effect. There will be petechia, and in his case, since he quote unquote passed away that way, it would have been extensive. It should have been extensive.
Okay, there's a young lady that's asking a question.
Mm-hmm.
Read it to her. I can't see it that well.
What about cyanide? What does cyanide do in your body after death?
After death, cyanide is that would come up on a toxicology report, and there was no indicator of cyanide in his autopsy. It mainly cyanide. And cyanide will, after death, you can get some bloating. Also, but cyanide pretty much does its damage prior to death. That's why really with cyanide, when they go to do the autopsy, they won't know that it's cyanide without running a full toxicology. That's kind of one of the ones that, if somebody kills you with cyanide and they don't do a good enough autopsy, then sometimes it's not even picked up in autopsy at all.
Wow.
If it's a low enough dose.
So is it normal to have so much wrong information in one autopsy?
No, absolutely not. Autopsy is where the right information usually comes out, i.e., your toxicology, a lot of things. You can tell a lot by bruising. You can tell a lot by the eyes. You can tell a lot by there's certain ways you can. That autopsy is supposed to be where the right information comes out. And so the fact that his height and his weight was wrong, that because when they go in, they're supposed to measure them and weigh them. Okay. Because that will give you a actual on certain types of poisons or alcohol or any type of drugs that could have been an overdose, any type of stuff like that, that is calculated based on your height and your weight.
Have you ever seen any type of bleeding associated with a hanging or like a strangulation? Or now how would that go about in accordance to Aaron's? You know what I mean?
Aaron didn't have any. There's nothing listed that he had any. I think they said something about he may have had
and the scratch. That's what I'm trying to hint.
Right.
I'm trying to describe.
Right. In hanging, no. In hanging, you will
what
sometimes
type of bleed? Okay.
It would be blood coming out of the mouth or the nose or
it.
ear.
Okay, now Aaron, in the crime scene photos, when he was laying on his left side on the ground, it looked like he had smeared dried blood that had been wiped across his face. Mm-hmm. Would that be normal? I mean, normally they're not supposed to touch the body, are they?
No, they're not. Not until detectives come out and the ME comes out and crime scene investigators.
Mhm.
Nobody is supposed to. EMS, and if EMS did do that, then they should have documented it in their noting their notes. They have to chart just like a nurse, doctor, whatever. They should have, if they did do something like that, or say they did something injuring the body after, and that's the other thing is he did not have any rib fractures, any type of sternum fractures, anything like that. So that is my number one indicators to know that they did not attempt CPR, which is stated that they did.
Do they normally on a call of a supposed to, do they make the decision, do they, how do they go about that process?
According to the I believe it was the EMS, or that they put a heart monitor. Yeah, they put a heart monitor on Aaron, and there was there's going to be two different ones, but the main one that there was slow PEA, which means that there was a faint. There may not have been a pulse, but when they put the heart monitor on for a reason. They may have not have been breathing, and he may not have had a pulse, but when they put the heart monitor on, it showed that he had a slow PEA. So that, to me, I would have continued doing CPR and life-saving measures and got him to a hospital to let a qualified doctor make that determination.
Okay. Alicia is asking, Thomas Deering signed off on Aaron's death certificate. I had a question that slipped my mind now.
What was on Aaron's driver's license? What was his height and weight on there? Do you know, Lisa?
I believe I could find it. I'd have to dig it out. It's 6'6" and 245.
Now, since you said that there was a slight rhythm, that they would have to at that point perform life-saving,
yes.
CPR and all.
Yes, because they are not doctors and they are not qualified to. I mean, they can call time of death at the scene.
They did,
but they didn't do any.
No, they didn't.
They didn't.
Also, okay, what would be a reason that you would leave a body laying on the ground for 8 hours uncovered?
My only thought on that would, A, that he should have been covered. B, everything and everybody should have been removed from the scene, awaiting the medical examiner, and then at that point the medical examiner will come in and do it. So my only thought for him to be there that long, which it should not have taken that long, because in the 911 call we saw where they dispatched the ME, and we seen when they were dispatched and what time ME was en route. So we've even seen the dispatch time for the coroner, and it was nowhere near that long. So that's another red flag right there. Is there should have not been any, and the police should have secured the scene, and there should have not ever been 2-week-old puppies. They could drag things in and drag things out. I mean, and I breed blue heelers as well, and you can probably hear them in the background. But at 2 weeks old, at 2 weeks old, their eyes are barely open. Yeah. These puppies' eyes are barely open, and they are very, very unsteady on their feet, meaning they cannot go very far. So that story is absolute BS, in my opinion, because there's absolutely No way.
No way. I've been
No
around.
way possible.
My grandparents always had puppies when we were like there's just I don't even know.
And
That's embarrassing on their part for them to even put that
Okay,
in.
and let's just say those puppies were a little bit older, like say 4 to 6 weeks,
Even
or
8
something like
weeks.
that, or 8 weeks. Let's just
Yeah.
say, those puppies should have been removed from that scene. But the thing is that they had it in their mind when they got there
Mhm.
that this was a suicide. They didn't want to deal with it. The people that were there, they were there, and it's in the 911 report, even though they claimed there was nobody there. There was.
I have now the girl commented, you'll have to check out Leroy Stalker. I have a few interviews on my channel about him, because this is where some of the questions are coming from. He was in a police standoff, and there was between 38 to 40 canisters of tear gas administered, and he didn't come out. And many believe that he was unable to come out. Many people believe that he was breathing because there was smoke inhalation, and during the autopsy they could see that, but we think that he was unconscious. So that would be a very interesting case. I think you should
yeah, I would.
But they
If
want
you
to know what are possible causes of right pleural adhesions. Can you see the comments I pop up?
I can, yeah.
Okay, just making sure. Some people can't.
Yeah.
So
The possibilities of those, there's quite a few. And first thing you want to say is, what kind of injury was there? Is she talking? Yeah. There's a couple different. I'm not a medical. I've never done an autopsy, so that I'd have to look up in my books and stuff. But my first thought would be inhalation of some sort, lack of. Usually when it's lack of oxygen, you see it in the brain, not lungs, or it just depends. There can be many causes. There can be a couple causes. Yeah, but then when you find that's when they always teach us, when you find one thing that has many different reasons, that's when you start investigating it, and you look further and find out, well, okay, was this present for it to cause this? Was this present for it to cause this? And then that's how you start. That's why when Lisa and I first started talking, I said, I need to start at the very, very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I need every bit of information that I can get from the beginning. And then once we get that, and we have our questions, and then we'll go from there. And then we'll go from there. And it's just, unfortunately, in this case, there's more questions of, well, why was this not done?
Okay.
Why was that not done?
Okay. I want to go back to the crime scene photos we saw. His eye had the cut run from between his eyebrows down through his eyelid, past the corner of his right eye. His eyeball was deflated, and the meat just folded down over his cheek. And his nose was broken. You could clearly see that in the photos.
Mm-hmm.
He was soaking wet, from head to toe. His shirt, but what stood out to me, he had on a white short sleeve t-shirt in the crime scene photos. Okay, there wasn't a stain on the shirt. I mean, nothing. And all the clothes returned to us, like I said, were soaking wet. There would have, why would somebody be completely soaking wet? Unless they were trying to wash away evidence.
Yeah, there's absolutely no reason at all that a person should be even in a quote unquote, because I don't like to say it, but that's what they kept saying. But in an apparent
Mhm.
suicide, there is absolute, they don't give them a shower and they don't wash them off until they get to the mortuary. They don't even do that for autopsy unless it's something where they are just completely covered in blood, like a stabbing or a shooting or something like that. And
Really?
they need to count stab marks, or they need to count, you know,
See, I didn't know that. I didn't know
no,
that.
no, they
But
don't.
see, that was, like I was saying, in those photos, you could see like there was crusty, dried blood, and you could see actually where it looked like fingerprints on his face where it had tried to been washed off. And that was, per the crime scene. I thought the investigator took good photos because it clearly showed there were no marks on Aaron's neck. But that was a question: is if you hang yourself and the injuries are after death, there would be no blood from them, correct?
Well, there would be minimal. It would be minimal. The longer the body lays there, so this is graphic, but what happens is your body starts expelling things on its own. It'll empty your bowels, it'll empty your bladder, it'll empty your kidneys, and then the longer and longer. But yeah, for the most part, it would not bleed. Like if, say, I walked up and cut your arm, it would not profusely bleed because the heart is
The
not
blood's
pumping the
over.
blood
Yeah.
any longer.
Okay.
So there
So
should not.
there shouldn't have been any fingerprints or looking like it'd been washed off then.
No, there should not have been. No,
Okay.
no, there should not have been. I think what had happened, like I gave my opinion on that they hung him after he was already gone,
Yeah.
and then or tried to hang him and make so that way when the cops came, they would say apparent suicide. Also, they made Aaron out to be. It hurts my heart now knowing Lisa and everything. I try, when I'm going over these cases, I try to keep all emotion out of it, and that's what you're taught to do. But with this case, it's just, this one has really, really, really got to me. And they made Aaron out to be a drug addict because of where he was at.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. In most cases, anywhere, it doesn't matter where it's at. If they can make the person out to be a drug addict, they think that nobody's really going to ask any questions. It's just one more junkie off the
Yeah.
street. But you guess what? That junkie is somebody's son, daughter, dad, brother, cousin, uncle, whoever. They still have family, and they still deserve to for their deaths to be investigated the way the DA's death would be investigated if he was killed.
Well,
There
now
was a
I did find out that the DA will go out to murder scenes. Now,
Yeah.
normally in a suicide, they do not.
I was gonna ask her. You beat me to it. Yeah. I want to
And
know.
I think initially they were looking at it as a murder. Well, that was the reason to have called the DA. I may be wrong. But somewhere in the midst of all of it, it changed. And I don't know why, but there's just, Aaron was trying to help a cousin get out of a charge she'd got in, and he had talked to me and told me if something happened, who to call and talk to. Which, when I did call, I call. Actually, law enforcement never called me to start with. I found out he was gone from one of his friends.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's just so many questions. I mean, like, he was too high in the ground for the rope that I have, for what little the cops have or did have.
That's my other thing.
Where, you know,
they released Erin's personal items, like she's saying, the clothes, that
yeah.
rope, stuff like that. They released that to her.
Then
Actually, that upper portion of that rope was left hanging at the seam.
Right.
A friend of mine retrieved it on the 8th, so it had hung there 3 days. And it was given to me on Monday night, on the 9th when I got there. So it hung out there. I don't know if they assumed the family that owned the house would take it down and get rid of it, but it had hung there. That is where these pictures came from. And if you've got, you know, you're a crime scene investigator, if you look at this photo she's got right now, you can see clearly that that rope and that knot never even tightened around that beam.
No, it didn't. And whenever you first showed me this picture, my thought in my brain was, you can tell that rope was already worn. I don't think that that particular rope would have held Erin at all.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying.
But I just still going back to my first thing was, where's the chair? What'd he climb up on in order to get up there? There was nothing under there. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And, you know, the fact that they've already...
I've had a few people say something. You see the beams that shoot out to the sides?
Yes.
I've had people say him standing on them. But even though that rope is so far out there, he wouldn't have been able to reach that. He would have had to have something right under it.
And the first thing I may have explained this to Lisa before, but people that commit suicide or they're hell-bent on committing suicide, they will not go out of their way. Does that make sense? They have a one-track mind, and this is what I'm going to do, and they make it as easy for themselves as possible to get the job done. He would not have climbed up on them beams and then shimmied across the top and then put the rope over his head and then jumped off. That's very, very, very far-fetched. Very.
Okay, is it... you saw the picture of his right wrist. Is it broken in your opinion?
I think it's broken, and that's the one that that is a bite mark.
See, I've broken both of my wrists, and the first time I seen that, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's definitely broken. That's that S." You know what I'm talking about? That bump, and then you got the S mark. Yeah, you could definitely tell.
Right. Wow. When you look at it in the middle of it, you can tell that bone, it's either broken or it's dislocated, one of the two, because you can see that it's popped up at the joint right there.
Okay, so he wouldn't be able to use that hand to tie a knot 16 feet in the air.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And to tie a knot, I don't know, can you tie a knot with one hand? I can't.
I don't think so, but I mean,
I can't, you know, there's just, I think that, we'll go into another part of it about the cops not caring. You know, like I'm saying, they gave her back his clothes. Anyways, the case is still open and active. It has not been closed because Lisa said, no, we aren't going to do that. So it's still open and active. There's absolutely no reason that they should have given his clothes back to her already.
Wow.
None.
I never even thought about that one.
Those should still
I never thought about that either.
Those should still be locked in evidence along with the rope and any other things that they did, which they didn't do anything. But those clothes would still be evidence. Those anything, the rope, anything down around on the ground of him. But yeah, they should have never given him. Now they can give back like the wallet or a phone.
They won't give back his wallet.
They should. And I'd be.
Backwards.
I'd be cute. You gave me his clothes that have DNA on them, but you didn't give me his wallet that was probably in his back pocket. Like,
that's how we feel about this top of the rope.
You know what I
his
mean?
DNA wouldn't be on that. It would be on the bottom part.
Somebody's is. That's right.
Yeah. Somebody's is. It got up there somehow. And how do we know that that rope hasn't been hanging there all along? If I was an attorney and I come in on this, we could really, I could debate this to the end of time, just because. But how do we know that rope didn't have a tire swing tied on it, and they all for however long, and they, were like, oh look, here's the idea. You don't know that. And so that's why you collect your evidence. And that's why you do all of this, to prove there wasn't a tire swing, to prove. But the DA never had any intentions on prosecuting this case. He never had any intentions.
I 100% agree with that. I would like to slide off on to the photos you've seen of Lisa Paul's. Hers was an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound, supposedly 2 of them.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was 2 of them.
There was 2 shots.
I'm just going to be listening in, and yeah.
On this one, do you feel, with what you saw, do you feel hers was a suicide?
No. And this is why, a couple things when I looked at her crime scene photos. And like I said, I haven't done much investigating on this one, and that's one that I plan on. But Aaron's is kind of my priority until we can we're gonna figure it out. But okay, for one, where the gun is laid is on the wrong side from the gunshot wounds. So when you shoot yourself, the gun will go wherever your hands lay. Yeah. It was on the wrong side. You cannot shoot yourself where she was shot. So she was, and I'll have to look back. I can't remember if it's the right or the left side. Either way, and so I'm sorry if I
she shot on the left side.
So on the left side, and the gun is on her left side.
I know her shoulder was. Let me think about it. I believe
she was shot.
Her right shoulder her arm was back under her body.
Yes.
And the gun was laying out like a couple of feet up the bed, maybe.
Yeah, it was way far out. It's like almost to the edge of the bed. And then, like you said, there was 2 shots. Now, if the gunshots had been in the same place, like in the exact,
they were
within like maybe 2 inches, I would give or take. Hers weren't. Hers were further apart than that, and they were kind of angled from each other. They weren't. So, when say somebody, and it's normally when you either put the gun in your mouth or to the side of your head, what can happen in some cases, and it also depends on the caliber of the gun. So I'd really be curious to know what the caliber of the gun was.
I believe that was a 9mm that was laying on the bed.
Okay. So in a case, I have seen in some suicides, but like I said, it's the mouth or the head. And because it's the brain shutting down, what will happen is they will shoot and then shoot immediately again. Oh, wow. So there will be 2 bullets, but it will be super, super, super close together, because what it is it's nerves and it's your brain shutting down. Yeah. And depending, like I said, depending on the type of gun, whether it's an automatic, a semi-automatic, it just depends. And it also depends, was the gun clean? Was it dirty prior to firing? There's a lot of different things on that. it can
Wow.
happen. It's extremely, extremely rare. And I've never seen it when they are shot anywhere other than the head.
Wow.
And in school, we did run across one of those, and I said, why, like, why? And that's what my instructor told me was, well, it's because that's what your brain is, what runs your nerves, your muscles. It runs
Okay.
everything in your body.
Okay. All right. So I guess Sarah didn't come on. So on
With hers, there's more to hers, and Lisa and I have talked about it. You also, as an investigator, when you go out to a scene and you start asking questions, especially when there's the surviving party is a male and the deceased is a female, the first thought in your mind should be for you to, and it doesn't take anything. They can go back to their car and ask dispatch over the radio if there have been any police contact at that home, if there has been any police contact between the two, has there been any police. They can go and they can get all of that information.
wow.
And so certain information like that's what makes these cases even more not an apparent suicide, because these two had
A history.
a history more than, you know what I mean. And in Aaron's case as well with his girlfriend, that should have been another red flag, and a question that they should have started asking quickly.
Okay. In the girlfriend's statement that I listened to, they done on Saturday morning, they done an interview with her. I got to watch it. She said that her and Aaron got into it in the house, that they were the only ones there, that he slapped her, she flew across the couch, hit her head on a table, which there was no place in there that was possible, because I've looked the house over really well. But then he grabbed her by the hand, said, "Here, you're going to watch this." Took her out. He took her outside, climbed up there, got ready, hung himself. She said when he stepped off that rail, there's a rail across. If you look in that scene, in that photo, he stepped off that rail. She got him. She swung him back. It's sort of like that Y support thing. There's just a rail straight across from it.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that she got him swung back over to the rail, got his foot hung somehow, and then he swung back out, but she couldn't get him swung back. And when she said that, I mean, that set off all kinds of bells, but she said he was pushing her off with his feet and hands. Would that have not done extensive damage to his neck?
Yeah. And also what it would have been was, somebody who hangs, I'll see if I can't find you some. I cannot release any photos of my stuff, but I'll find you some and show you what it should look like in hanging as well. My cousin survived he hung himself and he survived. You should have seen the bruising. So I'll see if we can't find those pictures as well. So for somebody to pass away, there would have been extensive bruising. But if he moved, okay. I don't know if you guys can see me, and it's kind of hard. But when you move, the rope will go up and down. It will move.
Okay, makes sense.
So instead of it being, when I, as a crime scene investigator, would come out and say I was investigating this, one of the things that I would do is I would take a measurement of the length of this rope, and I would take a measurement of how wide this rope is.
Hey,
and then I would
Sarah.
match.
I'm gonna bring Sarah in.
Okay.
Sarah, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There you go. Okay, I was just making sure you're getting welcome.
Yeah, I just now came in.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Heather, this is Sarah. She is Lisa's daughter.
Hello, Sarah. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you all?
I am Heather, and I have been working with Lisa on Aaron's case. And sorry, I got a text message. I'm trying to I've been working with Lisa on Aaron's case, and I have looked at your mom's just briefly. I did look at a couple of the crime scene photos. So I think they were wanting to allow you to ask any questions that you might have of me.
Okay, hang on one second. I'm trying to find my headphones. So
No worries.
Yeah, I
We've
don't
been carrying
know
on a good conversation.
But let me while she's doing that, let me finish what I was saying on that rope real quick, just so we can. Anyways, on the width of the rope. So I would say this rope is 1.5 inches wide or 2.5 inches wide, blah, 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 whatever the length width. So then you match that up to the neck when he is, and that's how you would figure out, okay, there's absolutely no way that this rope could have done this, or this rope could have.
I believe they said the rope and air. I know in the autopsy report it described the rope as white, and that rope's not white.
No, well, and
maybe 5/8 of an inch. I think was the 3/8 or 5/8 one.
It was one of the two, and I chuckled when I read that because I was like, that is like a bungee cord. Like, you know what I mean? Like the width of a bungee cord. That is not, and if you look at it, there's it's maybe 4 strands together. And so
this is possible.
This is
it
not
normal for them to unravel that much in 3 days?
No. Unless something was swinging, like after. But the only thing I would say is if something was hanging on it and it was swinging. But yeah, I don't. I can't see why this rope is unraveled like that either. That's the other thing.
All right.
Yeah. But something would have had to unraveled it, or there would have had to have been like an extreme wind for where that thing was whipping back and forth.
Okay. Sarah, have you got back yet? Okay. So I guess
I'm here. I'm just trying. Earphones.
Okay. Sarah has several kitties at home, small children.
Oh,
yeah.
How it goes right now. Mine are in bed, thank goodness.
But
you popped in earlier.
She hadn't ever got to ask any questions, so I'm going to yield the floor to Miss Sarah and let her ask what she needs to ask.
Okay.
Well, I have my mom's autopsy.
Okay.
We've looked at it several times. And on the autopsy, it says that there was a bullet that was retrieved, and then there was another one that was not retrieved.
Okay.
My question is, how do you shoot yourself twice? And it says that where it went in, there was no stippling on the skin. She had 2 broke ribs.
So it was not close range.
Exactly.
So the bullets, that one being retrieved and one being not retrieved, that's pretty normal. They aren't going to work that hard at retrieving them. If there's 2, they're going to retrieve the one and say.
But they're saying she did it with a 9mm and that it was suicide.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. Before you got here. it is possible for somebody when they commit suicide to shoot themselves twice. However, it will be in the head. It would be either the gun in the mouth or to the side of the head. Your brain, when you shoot that, there's nerves. It controls everything in your body. So it is possible that when the shot, automatic reflex of basically the brain shutting down and dying, it can, depending on the type of gun. And this, like you said, it was a 9mm. I'd be really interested to see whether it was automatic or semi-automatic, or
No, it
I'd
was
like
just
to.
it was just an automatic.
Can I
Okay.
ask the question? And I apologize, Sarah. I just don't know a lot about your mother and what happened. Where was she shot both times at?
Well, it says that the bullet entered from her left side, like under her breast almost, but there was no, and it pinged around inside of her. A 9mm would not ping around inside of you like that.
Yeah, that's more of
Well,
a
is it even normal?
380
I
or
mean, if they're saying that she
22.
could, Heather, would somebody shoot themselves right there in a suicide? Is that normal?
No, that is especially women.
Okay.
Women, okay. It's very rare for a woman to shoot themselves at all. We are vain. We are vain creatures.
Yeah.
We do not want that. We just don't want to do that. You know what I mean? We just don't. It's rare, very, very rare for a woman to shoot themselves at all. Usually women will take pills or
Yes, my mother, if anything would have happened like that, she would have overdosed. I'm sorry,
right,
that's just
right.
how it would have been.
And yeah, and that right there is that was my first thought on your mom's case, was women don't commit suicide like that.
That's right.
It's not normal for them. I mean, it happens, I'm sure, but I know it does. I've seen a couple, but it's not very common. It's not common at all. So that was my other thing. And then normally a suicide to be anywhere other than the head is even more rare. It's very, very, very rare you roll up to a scene and somebody has shot themselves, especially in the side or the heart, or it's just people are going, if they want to kill themselves, they are going for what is going to take you out the fastest. They are not going to shoot themselves. And let me ask you a question. Did they measure what the bullet holes, how far apart they were?
No. The thing is it's like there was one entry. The other one, I don't know how it. There was two. They only talked about one entry, but there was two bullets. And there was, like I said, the skin was not burnt. There was no stippling. And it was done on her left side. She was right-handed, and there's no way she could have reached around because her right shoulder was dislocated.
And that was what I was getting at when we were talking about. Also, when you looked at it, where just the gun placement on the bed was my number one red flag when I looked at it. Just because it was on the wrong side. It was on the wrong side.
What district is this out
it
of?
was
I'm
so 13.
Is it the 13? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, and I'm sure your mom's, and another thing that we were talking about prior to you getting here is in Erin's case and your mom's case, they did not protect the scene very well, at all. They also didn't, either these cops are extremely stupid, or and I for lack of better words, I mean, that's the only thing that I can say.
They didn't even check him for GSR.
That, and then like I had heard
Wow.
that I
They
was
didn't check my
told
mother either.
they didn't check either
Oh
one for
my
GSR.
goodness.
No.
They I had heard that they had domestic violence previously.
Several
That
times.
would have been another indicator for me to say this is not in a quote unquote apparent suicide. Like I was telling them, they can go back to their car and call dispatch on the radio and say, hey, I want to know, has the police ever been over here? Has there ever been any domestic violence calls? Has there ever been any, what does her background look like? What does his background look like?
His
Those are
background was very
questions.
bad.
Exactly.
Because
Those
I
are
had to run away
questions.
from home because he used to beat me
Gunshot
as a
wounds, if you
child.
Right. So
And that's
those
all,
are questions. Those are questions that need to be asked and that were never asked. But like I was saying, they came onto the side into both scenes. Like I don't know if did your mom's happen in the middle of the night?
No.
No. Okay, because neither did Aaron. So my thought was, were they sleeping in their car somewhere? And
Well,
were you
he told them
like
that she died at he told them that she did it at 4:30 that morning, but it took the call come in
what?
at 5. Yes, but the call come in at 5:38 a.m.
Wow.
Oh, so enough
Yeah.
time for him to clean stuff up.
Yes,
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Well, there
and
would have been another.
instead of walking across the road to use the phone, he walked a quarter of the mile up the road to use the phone.
Did they have a car?
Yes, we had 5 vehicles out there and a
Oh,
four-wheeler.
Okay, so he walked up the road instead of getting in a car.
Yep.
Oh
Okay.
my.
So, did he have a phone, a cell phone?
He said it was lost.
Oh, convenient. Okay. So there's another one. Okay, let me go back to 4:30 in the morning. What's her toxicology say on alcohol?
Nothing. They
0.
tested her for everything. I mean
Okay.
everything. It was
Just
nothing. She had nothing. And she
Really?
took
That's
yes.
interesting. Because I'll be
yeah.
honest, I don't know much
And
about it, but from what
she
and I
took
hate to be
prescription
weird,
medications.
that's not what wow. Okay. That's nice to
She
know.
Yes, because she had her back had been broke twice. She had 21 knee surgeries. So she took pain medicine. She
Oh
took
my
nerve
God.
medication, and she had nothing in her system. But he had all of her medicine on him when the police got there, and he had it even at the funeral home, and he was taking it at the funeral home.
Wow.
Yeah,
But
I've heard
I'm talking
that
about he was
before.
passed out on the front row, snoring in the front pew while everybody was coming up to view my mother.
Oh my dear.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm so sorry.
That's common.
That's
It
horrible.
honestly.
Well, Sarah wasn't he arrested or something for speeding and pulled a knife on a state trooper or something?
No. See, he had threatened me at the funeral home, and the police were, kind of, making rounds, and because I lived in apartments inside of town, and they caught him coming out of there.
Oh,
And
okay.
he pulled out in front of somebody and almost caused them to wreck, is what it was. And a state trooper pulled him over, and he come out with them with a buck knife on the state trooper.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they tased him and
Oh.
put him in jail. But a cop, which was his best friend, took him home and sit there and talked with him for 2.5 hours, which this cop, he went to the National Guard with. He was big buddies with him.
He was also the one that took the pictures at Aaron's. Am I correct?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, being the fact that there's a lot of pictures at Aaron's that are not done correctly. And
Well, no, the pictures that you've seen of Aaron's, are not what they took. These are pictures that the friend of mine took when she was taking when they were taking the rope down. I actually have a video of them taking the rope down with the homeowner in the video in the background.
Okay. I would be really, I want to find, which I don't know. I know that in both, Sarah, in your mom's case, are they refusing to give you any type of reports or anything? Do you have reports?
Oh no, I have the report.
Okay. I'm gonna, I'll have, if you want, you can add me on Facebook, and I want, and I'll give you all my info. And if you'll send me everything that you have, I will work on yours as well and get as much information as I can and read off red flags. And our main goal is with all of this, we want to get as many people as we can that have gone through this, are going through this, and we are all going to go to the FB. We're going to start one strand at a time and go up.
Oh, there's also a young lady out of West Tennessee. I would love for her to send you. Could she friend request you also? Her name's Elise. Okay.
Yes. Anybody that wants to.
I was going to say, you can have their friend request me. I'm not sure if you know my full name. I can send it to you.
Okay.
Yeah,
and also,
either way,
the police are telling me, I go to the police, and I complain constantly, still to this day. And all they do is they tell me, look, we know he done it. We just need more physical evidence. Until we can prove more physical evidence, we can't do anything.
If they had protected the scene like they were supposed to, we would have possibly had that. What did they give, curiosity, what did they give you back evidence-wise? Did they give you back her clothes?
Yes, they gave me her clothes.
Okay.
Well, actually, they didn't give them to me. I'm sorry. The funeral home gave them to me. They gave him the gun back. He went down there and raised heck with them, and they gave him the 9mm back, which I don't think she was shot with a 9mm. To me, for a bullet to bounce around inside of you, that's a 22.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. I said it's either a 380 or a 22. That's exactly what I said when we just started
talking. And there was a 22 behind the bedroom door, always.
Oh, my goodness.
Did they, you said they retrieved a projectile.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that?
They have it, and it said it was a medium to large caliber bullet.
Wow.
That's what it says on this paper.
That?
The TBI crime lab who did the autopsy. Yes.
They couldn't tell the exact caliber of the bullet.
No, it just says medium to large caliber bullet.
That sounds like some bullshit to me.
Well, anybody that's been doing an autopsy long enough would know exactly what caliber of bullet they're pulling out of somebody. That's one thing. Yes, that's one of the first things that you're taught.
That's the one that they retrieved. The other one said that it did not have enough momentum to come out, that it had made a purple contusion, and it was still inside of the right side of her back.
Okay. Let me ask you another question, because it sounds to me, being the fact that he was either cleaning stuff up or he was waiting for her to die. He was waiting for her to bleed out. I would be really interested in knowing what her actual injuries, or what it says in the autopsy. What were her injuries? To know, did she aspirate on the blood? Because that's possible.
Well, I think that's what happened, because it said that it went through her esophagus, it went through her right aorta, it went through her lung.
Well, if it went through her aorta and tore the aorta in half, it doesn't take that long for them to bleed
it
out. So definitely
Well,
not
it
an hour.
bounced around. I mean, it says that the bullet bounced around left to right, and left to right, up, down, right, left. I mean, it bounced a lot. It did a lot of damage because it hit her lung, her aorta, her esophagus, her ribs, a kidney.
Um, that's the sign of a small caliber. Not
And I'm sorry, a 9mm would have shot a hole plumb through
okay.
her.
That's what I was just fixing to ask. Do they know whether it was a hollow point or what it was?
And they did not say in the report.
Okay. Let's see. I want to know how far apart the wounds, the bullet wounds were. That's going to be a big deal.
That
They
it
didn't
doesn't
do.
say.
Did she have any sorts of injuries that would be consistent with um, defensive wounds
Oh yeah,
and
she
defensive
had
wounds?
rib 3, rib 4 on the left side was broke. Her nose was broken. She had her right shoulder was dislocated. She was beat so bad on her body, head, and face and legs that the funeral home asked me if her husband was had beat on her. Was she in a fight? What happened?
Okay. And the reason I say that is because that would bring me back to my any person that knows any half of what they're doing would have said, okay, we've got evidence of defensive wounds. We need to do some nail scrapings, which would, when they got there, they should have bagged her hands, both hands. And
Mm-hmm.
what they do is they bag both hands and they wrap it with tape around the wrist.
Yep.
Okay. So they
Mm-hmm.
know. So then my job would be I come in and I lift up her hand and I sign off that I'm the one who cut that tape and I'm the one who took them bags off her hands. And then I scrape each one of her nails and I put them on an individual they're like little slides. You put them on individual ones, and so I label those. This come from your right pointer. This come from your anyways, so on. So that way we know. Did she scratch him? Did she anything like that? And then we can get the DNA from underneath her nails and know that they were in a fight or who she might have been
Did
in a
he
fight
have any
with.
marks
Does that make sense?
Also, here's another thing. Okay, when you walk into the door, the bed was on the left side, which is where she was at and everything. Across from her bed was a closet door. There was a 9mm bullet shot into the closet door.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
So I think she shot at him to defend herself, and he shot her.
Yeah.
Did he
the
have
way
any
the
wounds on him, Sarah, that were
any
visible?
Oh, he had hid her gun from her. She had found it earlier that week because he had been beating on her, abusing her, and she had went and told my uncle that she had found her gun and that she was going to protect herself because he was threatening to kill her. Because of he wanted $50,000, which was the life insurance policy.
Oh my God.
He had been padlocking her in the house.
Let me ask you a question. When was that insurance policy taken out?
Oh, it had been taken out. We had had
Okay.
him for years, but he had been telling her, she had been asking him to leave because we owned the property out there. And he told her, give me this, give me that, give me 35,000, give me 50,000. And she's like, I don't have it.
Right.
We were actually looking for her an apartment until we could, go to court and get him out of there and things.
So that was public knowledge. So he knew she was leaving.
Yeah.
So there you go. That would be another thing so basically there is a bunch of, if I come out and if they called me out, those would be something that I would start asking. And once all of those added up, that's when I would most definitely. But the main problem started is when they didn't
Well,
secure. And I'll say it over
I
and
have
over
a
and over
question
on it.
for you. When you go out to a scene, isn't that something you automatically start doing? Wouldn't somebody have to tell you not to do that? Sort of stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Well,
you would have to like
I
physically say, "Hey,
asked,
don't do
and
that."
they
There's
said, you know, he wasn't crying. You know, he was just, you know, I mean, he was like, how long's this going to take? You know, he was just, you know, they said that they noticed he acted a little funny, but they thought that maybe he was just in shock.
Yeah, that's your number one thing. You never assume that somebody's in shock.
Yeah.
You always follow through. But you know, there is a protocol that every department
Yeah.
that they have to uphold. You have to. And so the fact that
And
they don't.
I asked them why did they not check him, because they came to my house that later on, you know, that morning to talk to me. The investigator did, and because he was under investigation, and they, you know, I asked them. I said, "Did you not check him? You know, did you not check him for GSR or anything?" And he said, "No." He didn't. He said, you know, we asked to see his hands, and it took 5 or 6 times of us asking him for him to show us his hands. And he said, but we did not test them because I figured if he had done anything, that he had plenty enough time to wash up.
Even gunshot residue
Is what
stays
he
on your hands for
Yes.
at
yes.
least a day or so, even if you wash your
And
hands,
he
it doesn't
said,
matter.
because he could have added chemicals or bleach or anything. And he said that there's, you know, and I said, are you sure? I said, why did you just not test to make sure? And he said,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, ma'am. That's all I can say.
The other thing that he needed to be tested for was blood splatter. That will tell you a lot too. It'll tell you how close they were. It'll tell you a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, so a lot of times they can think that they've cleaned up fine. They think so, and we can go over there with flashlight and we can run it over them and guarantee you there is a speck of blood somewhere. Their hair.
That's what I was going to say. You know,
Eyelash.
a lot of times you would think that a shirt hasn't been touched, but you go through it with a fine tooth comb, you find these just little bit of, you know, spots.
Could I ask one question?
Right.
Heather, should they have bagged Aaron's hands at his crime scene?
Absolutely. Absolutely, especially because he had evidence of trauma. He had the gash on his face, and they can tell us puppies all day long. We could have even tested those puppies for blood to see if they had any blood on their hands or their paws, or their paws or their face.
Wow.
Or we could have tested them puppies to see if the puppies had blood on them, to be like, no, that's BS. That's a BS
Sounds
story.
to me
Try
like
again.
Sounds to me like the district needs to be retrained.
Yeah. And you know, I thought about that. You know, I was driving home the other day, and then when I was thinking about it, and I said, no, I could, you know, explain away a couple things, like if you missed a couple things, as just training, not having enough training, maybe not having enough finances to train, resources. You know, I could maybe a couple things they missed, but they missed huge on both cases. The first thing that should have been done is everything should have been removed from both scenes, and they should have been secured. And then they should have.
Both of these cases were, Sarah, how far apart? Both of them on Turkey Town.
Yeah, about 5 miles, 5 or 6 miles.
They that far apart?
I didn't know yours was
Yeah.
on.
I don't think
they're on the same road.
Yeah, they're definitely on the same road.
That's 3. That's Aaron, Caitlin, and Lisa now. 3
Well,
times.
You've got there. Let Sarah tell you, she knows the place better than me. There's been a lot more than just them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. My mother's husband's friend, his wife mysteriously came up hanged in their front yard. Him and
There's a
his wife
lot.
were having problems, and my mother's
Wow.
husband was over there, and yeah, she was hanged.
So
Um,
he's
And
been present.
her
See,
husband couldn't have done it because he was a paraplegic. He was in a wheelchair.
and see that the thing about it is, this same guy was present at Aaron's death, and he told people he was there, that it was his idea, you know.
well, at
And
Aaron's death, they also let witnesses leave.
Yeah.
oh yeah, and then yeah, they did.
Yeah,
They
but
sure
They
did.
let him leave.
What Lisa is saying is the man who killed my mother was there at Aaron's as well and was in on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he got away with it once. Why not again? I mean,
Oh
he knows
no.
how.
Oh no. His father was his first at 16.
Yeah.
He shot his
Um,
father just like he did my mom.
well, and you know, the thing about it is that when they showed up to your mother's scene, if they had gone and they'd have checked his um record, they would have known any police contact he'd had, and they'd have known about all of that, and they'd have said, hey, this guy's been involved in this many murders up until now. We definitely needed
Well,
if
they're
they
root
didn't.
suicides, all of them.
Well, and that's he knows, but the thing about it is that they shouldn't have been, and they were neither one were apparent, quote unquote, apparent suicides. They should have been listed as suspicious death, because in Aaron's case, they really didn't have a whole lot of proof up front, but had they done the proper investigating, they would have found it, as well as Sarah's mom's. They didn't have a whole lot of physical proof at that time, but had they listed it as a suspicious death, and not just done nothing, they could have proven it with
But
DNA. They could have done
yeah,
it with the right investigative processes.
well, they
Uh,
have one common element in several of them that's in both
right,
of them.
right.
So
Right. And that would be a huge red flag to me and any if I was a detective or the DA or whatnot. But it seems to me like they were trying somebody at that point was trying to let whoever was the common denominator there go.
exactly, you
Because
won first prize.
they got an awfully long ways before they sent the cops back after them.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And
yeah.
then still to this day, it's a lie. When in the 911 call, it shows the who exactly went to jail that night. And it shows that she was vomiting in the back seat of the police car. Why? Those weren't questions that the police started asking.
Well, turns out that person, I believe, it was in that car. She had a warrant out of another county. It was not Karen Will, but it was doing the puking in the car.
No, it was Crystal, wasn't it? That we
Erica
found.
Birdwell.
Oh, Erica. That's the one.
Yeah.
They let 5 people leave that scene. 5. And
Yeah.
they knew it. And they
Yeah.
knew it. So that right there tells me that they never intended on doing any type of investigating whatsoever.
And see, that's my thing. That's my thing. Because somebody like you know, when you go out there, you're like, even me, I was an SCNA. Like, you go out to situations and it's just automatically something that you do. It's hardwired
Right.
through your training. So my
Right.
thing is when you come out to scenes like these, and you not just have, you know, the big players, but you have like people like you, the crime scene investigators. You have other people, the little, you know, so when you go out there, your first instinct is to follow protocol. You would have to have somebody
Right.
tell you not to do that, right?
Right. I agree.
Or you would bring people out there. Could you bring people out there that are, you know, are prone to know not to follow protocol? Those are the only 2 options, right?
So when we get there, it's normally not just me. There's a couple of us, sometimes 3 or 4 of us. And we are given by our boss, our supervisor that is there with us. And he says, Heather, I want you to do XYZ. You do XYZ, and everybody is held accountable. So that way, when the DA asked me, where were the fingernail scrapings? Or ask my boss, how come fingernail scrapings are not in evidence? And we, because we didn't do them, then they're going to be like, well, why not? You know, I also was just looking at a case the other day that fingernail scrapings were done, but somebody was hiding them and they were in evidence the entire time, but they were told that they were not there. And this was a lady who committed suicide, and her husband is the one who actually killed her. And that these fingernail scrapings, they were there. They were in evidence. They were in that evidence locker, but they had been told that they were not. They were not there until a private investigator and another DA had come in, and they were saying, I saw it done. They are saying it was done, and they have witnesses saying it was done, so you better find them. And then they go back into the evidence locker, and lo and behold, there were those fingernail scrapings, and that had DNA to prove that the husband and wife had gotten into an altercation, and that he killed her.
Man.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's how you can go back. And like right now, we have none of that. And when you go to court and you sit in front of a jury, that's what they're going to ask for, is physical evidence. And we don't have it because they didn't do it. So at very best, my thought is, at very best, if we can't get somebody to go to prison, then everybody needs to file a class action lawsuit against this district. And when you start going for their money, that's when they start coming up with your answers.
That's what I said. Hell yes.
That's when your answers start coming out, because then when they come in and they say this person filed and this is why, and I'll help you get every bit of evidence I can and every bit of everything to say this was not done. We want to know why. This was not done. We want to know why. Why, when you got there, did you not protect your crime scene? Why? And I guarantee you, they're going to have 0 answers, or they're going to answer a really good answer, and they'll throw somebody under the bus, and they'll get you answers.
Generally, how long does it take for bodies to be taken from the scenes in situations like these?
Depending on what the medical examiner says. If they're not doing any investigating or anything, I mean, and the medical examiner, see, like where I live, the medical examiner is 3 hours away. So, usually what they do is they'll take them to the hospital and await if they are dead on arrival, they'll take them to the hospital here, and then Annie comes and gets them from there. But usually anywhere between 2 and 4 hours, unless there's a lot of evidence at the scene and we are collecting a crap ton, and then the body could be laying there for a day, half a day.
My question is, why did they not check like my mom's state of rigor mortis and like her coagulation of her blood? Why was that not noted?
That was another thing I was going to bring up, because they didn't do it in her case nor Aaron's case. They didn't. That what we do is come out and we will take the temperature of the body, and the temperature of the body. Hold on just a second.
Okay.
I got people texting. Hold on, I'm sorry.
Sarah, before we hop off of here, while I have you, Do you mind if I clear up some misconceptions that I don't know much about your mom's case. The most I've learned is tonight, but I have heard some wind, and I would just like to straight up ask you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just it's not, I promise, it's not too much invasion. It's just I mean, just like the whole situation with the drug, from what I heard, your mom was a partier, and that was part of the big reason why they fought that night, is because he was done and she wasn't. And to find out that she wasn't is from you.
No, my mom was never a part. My mama, she was not a partier. She was a retired beautician. She had her own beauty shop, and she had retired from it. She may have partied before she had me.
Yeah.
But
Who doesn't?
she was young. She had me whenever she was 21, 22. And I've never known of my mom to party ever. My mom was always home all my life. She was right there always,
I never seen Lisa in a bar nowhere.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very important because I hear you guys talking tonight, and when you talked about her, Sarah, I was like, well, that's just very good to know. I'm happy that.
Yeah. I have known of her going to a place called the A-Frame. I think she went twice.
Yeah, well, I mean,
and I mean, that's all through my whole life, twice. And that was when I was a little girl. But she went up there to sing because they did singing. So she went up there to sing. Yes.
I'm a karaoke gal.
Gotcha.
So that's
I
why
don't party and I do karaoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a big partier back in my day. I was the table dancing, popping everything back before and then I had my kids, and now
No. She was not a partier, she was home constantly, and she, like my mom, like I said, she had back surgery, she had knee surgery, so she wasn't able to get out and do all that.
Well, I'm just glad I could finally ask you because
Sarah,
yes.
they did not take your mom's temperature.
No.
Nor Aaron's.
And they didn't take Aaron's. So that gives you a timeline of death. And that is something that needs to be done. So we know that we take the temperature of the room, and then we take their temperature, and then we go. And so, like, say, for example, they're in a 68-degree room. We have a formula, and it will tell us how long they have been deceased. And so the fact that he didn't call 911 and this supposedly happened at 4:30, well, we could have proven what time it happened had they taken her temperature. The same with Aaron. Did he die when he's maybe 5 minutes after his dad dropped him off? Or did he die 5 minutes before that?
Well, see, in dealing with Courtney Cash's, now let me throw this at you. In Courtney Cash's case, okay, she passed away the early morning hours of March 18th, but they have her clocked on when they found her on March 19th. Isn't that weird? That's a whole 24 hours after she was dead.
Well, at that point, that body would have been in advanced stages of rigor,
and it was.
She would have started having discoloration.
Yep, they noted all of that, and she
was
in that box for about 24 hours, and then instead of noting it for the 18th, they said, and then somebody on a comment said that's just how they do it in Tennessee.
That ain't just how. Never mind.
Yeah,
you can't just that's
Isn't that
just
ridiculous?
How they do it.
That's like with my mother. They didn't ask her, or they didn't ask him. You said she died at 4:30. Okay, why did you wait and call at 5:38 a.m.?
Those details are so important,
and it is. And
Courtney, all these cases are in the same district that she's talking about.
Yeah, Courtney's is in the 13th over in Baxter. What county is that? Putnam?
Yes.
Well, because everybody gave me such a hard time because I changed it. I said, no, but she died on the 18th. I don't want to put the 19th. That takes away a whole 24 hours that she laid there. Why would they do that? That don't make any sense.
Well, doesn't it let a lot of evidence deteriorate?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
That was that.
that's how you know. I mean, that's why you do a time of, or in essence, it
Yeah.
won't ever, we can't be, dead on and say she died at 4:35, but we can say she died somewhere between 4 a.m. and 4:45, or, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And then that lets you know, well, we need to start figuring out how many people could have been here at that point in time. How
Mm-hmm.
many
Mm-hmm.
people, and that goes back to securing your scene.
Yes.
And
Wow.
I mean, I'm going to preach that. And if you ever hear me talk again, I'm going to preach that. That is your number one thing. And that is if
That's what
you
I
are a
thought when Cindy and I
rookie
told
police
her,
officer.
I said, there's no reason why they should have put the 19th. That takes a
No.
lot of,
That's
yeah.
no. And see,
Well,
and for a death certificate, they give you a date and time of death, and that is a federal database.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're doing that, then that is fraud, because that is saying she died on the 19th instead of the 18th, and that is fraud.
I mean, even
That's
both
a
boys will
federal
corroborate
database.
that when she died on that 18th morning. They both are right there on that time. I mean, they still put the 19th.
Yeah. So that right there, that is, yeah.
13th District, Tennessee, y'all.
But you can't just do just because you want to. No.
Yeah.
Or because we didn't want to do this, or because we didn't want to do that. You are held. It doesn't matter when you're in law enforcement. There are there are things you have to do.
Well, in Tennessee, apparently the district attorney has nobody that oversees him, and this particular DA says he can do anything he wants to because there's nobody above him.
Yeah, there is.
He has reach.
Yeah. I mean, the governor is above him. The attorney general is above him.
Both of which, in Aaron's case, said they had no control over him because he was an elected official.
That goes so far. I mean, yes, he needs to be voted out. But if he is breaking laws, yeah, he can be taken care of. Yeah, because they have to. Hell, we could go to the bar and have them audit him.
They have filed complaints against this man. All they do is send him notes about who's doing it.
Yeah, there's plenty of things that we can do, but I've always said this, that there's power in numbers.
Yes.
So with what you've seen, looking over Aaron's, especially since you've kind of looked into that a little bit more. So you were, with all that you've had and you're arriving out there, when you left, what kind of scene would you think that was?
From Aaron's?
That makes sense.
When I left?
No, say you were out there, from reading over everything that you've read.
If I was investigating it, I would have gone in and I would have,
leaving off of there. What would you think?
I would most definitely say it was a homicide, and then I would go looking for who was the actual, which in my state, and I'm sure it's the same in Tennessee, if you are involved, even if it's a fight and you're involved in it and somebody dies, even if there's 6 of you, you are all going down for first-degree murder. Doesn't matter.
Well, see, one of the judges in this district actually told a lady that the 13th district couldn't afford murder trials, that all she was going to get on her child was a manslaughter charge, and ended up contributing to the delinquency of a minor. And her son lost his life. He was 14 years old.
Okay, it doesn't matter if they can afford it or not. It does not matter.
Well,
It doesn't
they don't
matter.
try many. They don't try many. The federal funding, open, shut, closed cases. They plea bargain everything out, and they get
Well,
more funding that way.
well, then what needs to be done? Because what it sounds like to me, because there is certain funding, what needs to be done is that the city or the district, whoever, I don't know how it runs their city government there, but it needs to be audited because they're using money somewhere else. Because there's always enough money to try murder cases. It is not that expensive. Judges have to, they are an elected position. They
Oh
have to
Lord,
do it.
the
They have to.
judges. We don't want to even. Tennessee right now's judiciary system is under heavy fire for
Clearly.
corruption, and
Yep.
it's ugly.
Yep.
It
This
seems the whole judicial thing is really under fire.
There was a comment. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt y'all. There was a comment of somebody saying exactly what I said, is that date and time of death is a federal database and it is fraud for you to not have an accurate date and time.
Which I'm
It's fraud.
surprised nobody has made a bigger. I feel like I'm in a room and we have this information and I was the only one looking around like, do you guys not see what I'm seeing here?
Mhm.
I mean, of course the family
You know,
did, of course they did, but I'm just like, why is nobody making a fuss over this alone? It doesn't make sense.
well,
Well,
and
go ahead.
I've looked at these cases and I can look at them and I can tell you and I can be like, look at this photo and tell me there is certain things that are supposed to be there and there's one or two that is not supposed to be there. Tell me which one it is. And pretty much, not even having a degree or anything, you can tell me what's not supposed to be there. These cases, Aaron's and she's right, God is building an army, the district
Yes,
attorney
he
will,
is.
but God does build an army, and I think that's why I'm here. But these cases are so grossly mishandled that it doesn't take much. But then I can see the things that just pop out to me because I know what I'm looking for. But
But I mean, and if you look at it, that makes it even more credible because of what you do and what you
yeah,
you put. So,
and I've tried, and I've looked at every angle and tried to explain them away, the things that I've seen, and be like, okay, well, this could happen, but the odds of these things happening are like little. And just the things with Aaron's, and there's absolutely zero evidence to me that suggests that Aaron hung himself. None
well, I
whatsoever.
think it's
We
nice to
do
have somebody
know
that's going to combat the things that they've said
we
and do
do
it
know that
professionally.
we do know that one of the reasons the person that was performing the autopsy said one of the main reasons is that he said that Aaron was suicide was because of a statement of that supposedly came from Aaron's dad, which it did not. We've verified that, and then also the fact that he was treated for bipolar as he was younger. I mean, several years prior. Because you are bipolar does not mean that you will commit suicide.
My mother, she had been treated for depression
Right.
due to her husband,
Right.
being mentally abusive because
Right.
he was very mentally abusive. I mean, he used to padlock her in the house when he would leave so that she couldn't leave. Just different things. It's
Well,
and
when I
also
was
like I took her to the gynecologist because she was having, female issues.
Right.
And she had broke down and complained and, and cried. And of course, that being a doctor, she made note of that. She, there's proof right there. She made a note and it was put into my mother's files. And I begged for the police because they asked me, do you have any proof that he, was abusive to her? And I begged them to, just go to that doctor so she could release it to him.
Right. And they
so
didn't do that.
No.
And that's why I say just because somebody is bipolar or depressed at some point in time does not mean that they will kill themselves.
Amen.
I was diagnosed bipolar when I was married and manic depressive whenever I was married to my ex-husband. And I have 3 degrees and I do this stuff. And there's absolutely nothing in me that I would ever commit suicide. So being bipolar and depressed at some point in your life does not necessarily mean that
I'll
you
be the
will
first one to
commit suicide
say,
today.
when I was younger, I was going through some personal things and had some things happen to me, and I did not want to be here anymore. I slit my wrists, and if it wasn't for somebody finding me, I would not be here. And I will honestly tell you today, if I have ever found out, it would not be because I killed myself. Ever.
Right.
Ever. I would never, ever go down that road. I mean, is it an itch? Yeah, it's kind of like an addiction. It's always you think about it, but I can honestly sit here with my kids, my life now. That would just not be an option for me anymore.
In Aaron's case, now I'm sorry to intervene.
No.
To me, the first warning signs, Aaron told me who to talk to if something happened to him. And then he left a message with another family friend knowing they would get it to me if something happened. So Aaron knew something was coming. I don't feel he thought it would happen that day, but there was a fight in the house. Mm-hmm. Rufus's tooth got knocked out because he had it the day before, but he didn't have it the day, after that day. I mean, that proves, they said there was blood splatter went all across the ceiling when he was hit. Cops never once went inside that house. They never entered the house, or they would have found the one girl that says she recorded it all with a cell phone. There was a lady actually posted it out on Facebook. But, there's been statements after statements. People try to go in and give statements. They were told to mind their own business.
Yeah. And, they never asked anybody where the rope came from. None of it.
That's like with my mother.
I told them I had it. They never said nothing about it.
No, where it came from. Where did the rope come from? The house? Where was this rope? Why?
Well, no. What Karen said was, Karen said he went in the bedroom and got it, but Hack Cox, in his interview on June the 2nd of 19, said that he never seen no rope in Aaron's room. So
it's like with my mother, she had went to her brothers and told them that she had found her gun, that she was afraid for her life because he had been threatening that he was going to kill her because he wanted money. And, she was afraid for her life. And, I mean, there was proof right there. She was scared that, she wouldn't have committed suicide.
And when I posted this guy's picture out on Facebook, the threats, got a friend request from somebody named B. Wiser, which I found amusing,
That's comical.
Yes, and it took 30 months to get a photo of this man.
Wow.
And he has been in trouble. He has multiple criminal records.
There's another thing. Let me just say something to the both of you, and this is a little bit of the reason I don't want any recognition for this. I didn't want anything. In 2016, I was diagnosed with leukemia.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
And I survived leukemia. And from that point forward, I knew that God had kept me here for a reason. And so that's why I have made it my life's mission to reach out to people like you guys and try to help you and do what I can. So, I got asked that the other day by somebody, and they said, "Why do you do it?" And I said, "Because God wants me to."
God saved you for this army.
Right.
Mhm.
And so that's what we're going to do. And we're going to comb over every single part of these cases. And it's going to all come out. And I don't care if I have to go to the White House. That's what we're
Exactly.
doing.
Exactly.
That's what we're doing.
We need a bunch
You
of
know,
loudmouths to join the team with us.
I've already, looked at plane tickets to get to Tennessee because I want to go around and I want to talk to everybody
I think I'm
person on
coming down
person.
this springtime. I think I'm going to plan a trip to go around and visit some there. And
I just
There's also another case. My wife, her mother, she was friends with my mom, and a month and 13 days after my mom was killed, her mother was beat to death, and they ruled hers as she had a heart attack in the same county.
Are you
Same district.
serious?
Yes. I'm telling you, there's a bunch.
And I think, a lot of this, to be 100% honest, I don't care what credentials this person doing the autopsies has. He needs to go. Because there are things that are missing out of both autopsies that should be there.
Well, my mother's autopsy was done at the TBI crime lab.
Do they do X-rays during autopsies?
They should. They should. Every state is different. They should, especially if they have any type of suspicions that there was some sort of bodily injuries. A lot of times they'll use them when they're looking for bullet fragments, bullets, that kind of stuff. But a lot of times they don't. It just depends. But in Aaron's case, they should have. I can clearly see and then in the autopsy, the laceration on his face is a tiny laceration. It's not what it was.
No,
there's nothing that mentions the nose. There's nothing that mentions, and it is a profound bruise on Aaron's arm, on his wrist. And if you, I'm sure Elisa can get pictures of it to you, but I want you guys to look at it. It is perfect bite mark if I've ever seen one.
I never noticed it. Yeah, I can post a picture of the wrist. But I think, ladies, I'm going to step out of this one and let you guys keep going.
Yeah, I'm going to have to.
Heather.
You're so welcome, Lisa. Anything I can do for you, sweetheart. Anything.
I am
We're going to get this
so
going.
happy that you were able to take the time out and do this.
Yeah, and I'm grateful Sarah finally got to
Me too.
come out and speak. I've waited for it because I was a friend to her mother. Hadn't seen Sarah still since she was a toddler, so I'm glad she's getting to ask some questions she needed to ask.
Yes,
well,
I'm glad I appreciate everyone. I mean, it means a lot to me because my mother deserves justice just as well as everyone else that, has been done like this.
Absolutely.
I totally agree.
Sarah, I'm glad that I got to ask you and I got to clear up some things about your mom. Because like I said, I don't know a lot about her case, but the things that I did hear and just hearing you talk, I'm glad that you came, and I'm glad you got to say this.
A lot of the things that people were saying about that they're trying to cover for somebody, and they're trying to make her something she wasn't. Like I said, I met her mother when I was 17 years old, so I've known her virtually a lifetime, and what none of those people are saying is the truth, or it never, to my knowledge, it never was.
You know, Lisa, but it's like I said in the very beginning of this, it does not matter. It doesn't matter if they were a drug addict. It doesn't matter if they were an alcoholic. It does not matter. Everybody has the right to life. And then after death, they deserve the right for their story to be told in the correct way.
I agree. I agree completely.
It doesn't
Thank
matter.
you all. I love you guys.
Love you too.
Yes, I'm so
Love you,
glad.
Lisa.
Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
I am very glad that you guys were able to join in. If you guys would like to continue to follow along with Unraveling Tennessee, subscribe, because this is where we'll be having our videos. If you are unfamiliar with any of the cases that you heard tonight, or any of them, go ahead and check out the Unraveling series that we're doing, and you'll kind of get caught up on what we're trying to do here and what we're talking about. I really hope to hear from Heather again. I invite her back anytime that she wants to come on with us and talk about a case. She is more than welcome. I will get my information to her. That way I can always send her a link if she's around, and she can always join. I appreciate that. I hope that families come to trust her and lean on her for her insight. So if you are not part of the page, follow the page. If you're not part of the channel, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you guys next time. This is Ashley with TC Spotlight. Until next time, you guys stay safe, and you guys have a good night.